Kak, can I start? Gitu lah. Loh, aku loh.
Yes, sorry. Can you please speak a bit louder?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, better.
Okay, okay. So I will start my speech in three, two, one. So, ladies and gentlemen, and the judge, as the context slide says, that the squad is a group of women of color and all under 50 in the Democratic Party, and these groups is making very radical policies that clash with the party's leadership. For example, Green New Deal. And the problem that we identify with this is that it is very strict, it is very unstrategic because radical policies are, of course, very well get attacked by the opposition Republican Party, and it can also make us lose more voters. Hence, our stance in this motion is we want to regret the idolization of AOC squad, and our goal is to fulfill the democratic interest. Moving to my first argument, why is it justified to regret the idolization of AOC squad? So the voter base for the Democratic is of course very diverse. They are very progressive. They are progressive to moderate people. This means that that when we idolize they are of course going to be expect every politician to be like the AOC squad, and this is of course very bad because this will make the Democrats seen as a very radical party. For example, the Green New Deal policy, and of course, people is of course opposing this policy because this has potential to make a lot of people lose their jobs, ladies and gentlemen. And let's characterize a bit why is being radical bad. So American voters has several characterizations of. First, they of course do not like radical ideas. They tend to be more moderate, and secondly, they tend to be more moderate. Hence where are these people that are truly important located? They are of course located inside of a swing state. For example, Texas, Florida, Detroit, and etc. These are places that suffer from economical problems. Hence, they always change allegiance either to Republican or the Democrat Party. We say that the policy that has been brought by the AOC and its squad will, like Green New Deal, for example, and other policies that are very radical, has been increasingly criticized by the Republican with facts and data. We say that the result, it will make people that they say the Republican Party said that this will make people lose job instead of Green New Deal. Hence, we say that the idolization of the squad itself that brings a very radical policy like Green New Deal and etc. is very damaging to our voter base since it makes us an easy target. Therefore, at the end of the day, people won't vote for our party, for the Democrats Party. Parallel example is Bernie Sanders when he proposed the Green New Deal and other radical policy. He lost to Joe Biden in the state of Virginia because Joe Biden is more moderate, ladies and gentlemen, and this proves that within the Democratic themselves they do not like these very radical policies. So these radical policies is therefore not within the interest of the Democratic Party in the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. Now moving to my second argument. What do we want for the Democratic Party? So for the Democrats Party, ladies and gentlemen, we want the Democrats to have a much better image where they are seen as a more moderate party that can cater all layer of society, even if it's like minority or majority. That means that they can cater of society. For example, like Joe Biden, who is advocating for government when he is in clash with Bernie Sanders, he is advocating for government medical aid without replacing the current Medicare care plan. When Bernie Sanders is trying to replace the current medical care plan, he is of course lost to Joe Biden. We say that it is very important since it is seen as a more acceptable idea for American society because it is not that radical in the very first place. And as we characterize in the first argument, and American citizens tend to be very moderate and not like the very radical policies. Hence, in our side of the house, we can achieve we can achieve two things. First, the voters will be able to vote us with the policy that is more moderate and not radical, because as I characterized in the first argument, this kind of this kind of American states are very in like a swing state. So this means that they tend to go for the more moderate one because it is safer, and the radical one they tend to more criticize because it could lose jobs and etc. And secondly, it will distance us from the incoming Republican attacks and critics. Like for example, Trump saying that Bernie is socialist, and the Republican Party attacking us for saying that Green New Deal is like losing people's job and etc. Hence, our side can evade and avoid those kinds of things in the very first place, right? So this means that the moment that we don't get attacked from the Republican Party, we can sway more people in the swing state to be on our side of the house, and hence we can get more voters that way. And moreover, comparatively, under their side of the house, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that they support these kinds of idealizations of the AOC squad, they will be having a very radical policies, and this means that it is going to be very bad for them because they can lose those voters in the very first place, and we are very proud to propose.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for the speech. Now to open the case of opposition, I call on the leader of opposition. The time is yours.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, before I start to my arguments, I would like to evaluate some statements from the proposition side of the House. Firstly, they saying that they keep pointing out that these squad are making radical policy like Green New Deal. Here's the thing. We question you, the proposition side of the House. Why is the Green New Deal is so radical in your opinion? Green New Deal policy was made in the sake of human life's future. We don't want a climate change to be happen, right? Proposition said that many people are opposing Green New Deal, but the fact is our society right now are open-minded enough. They are concerned about climate change. They are concerned enough about the environmental protection. Look how many younger generations has been spreading the awareness about environmental protection. Even when Trump formerly left the Paris Climate Agreement, people are so mad at him. Then how could you conclude that this Green New Deal is a very radical policy? If you talk about radical, the conservatives are the one who are more radical. And also, I would like to clarify that they bring up about the info slide, and here's the thing: info slide is not an argument. Democrats' margin in 2020 House race is narrowing because many young Democratic voters who idolize Bernie, AOC, or the squad think that the people who represent their place is not representative or progressive enough. So they would vote third or independent party, causing the seat to be flipped by the status quo Republican voters. We as the opposition side of the house, we believe that as Democrats, we don't need to regret the idolization. We don't need to regret the idolization of AOC squad. We have to support them so that there will be no more internal clashes in the future between AOC squad and the Democrats itself. Why should as a Democrat, why should we support AOC? I will explain it later in the argument. Firstly, I would like to talk about why idolization is okay. Panel, idolization is okay because it raises people awareness and get more people involved. The squad actually inspires people to make to make an actual fundamental change in the society. The squad actually inspire people from similar background as them to get involved in politics. It's shown by the squad is growing. The idolization inspires people to make actual fundamental change in American pro-capitalist government. The squad actually inspires people to make an actual fundamental change and inspire people to combat the social injustice itself in the society. Now, I would like to characterize the type of demographic voters nowadays. As we know, demographic voters today are mostly dominated by younger generations, right? All these younger generations are more into progressive ideas with all the social equality, cultural liberalism, and also environmental protection. So we believe that with the status quo that we all know that these voters are already different right now. They are younger generations. They all want change, right? Most people want change, and it is the right time for Democrats to show its appearance as a progressive party and showing that they can bring a new change for a better society for the future itself. Firstly, I would like to bring three main points to discuss. First, I would like to talk about we as Democrats, we want to keep our seats in the House table. We want to keep our seats in the House table, right? We all know our demographic voters right now are younger generations that more into principles like cultural liberalism and social justice and equality and environmental protection. As AOC squad has the same progressive mindset, we should support them because this could make Democrat seem consistent for the public itself, and this could increase the good reputation of the Democrat itself. Just see the previous election. Our Democratic candidates that are less progressive, there's actually a lot of them who didn't get re-elected to the office. Why? This indicates that Democrats voters are changing. They are now dominated by younger generations. They want a political revolution that offered by the AOC squad. And as Democrat, we should support these ladies because even our Democratic voters are supporting a progressivity, right? So it's time for us as the party to support these ladies because they can bring new ideas to the better society and future. Secondly, this AOC squad is deserves to be supported because they can represent minorities, which is make a great fair for the society. Just look at one of the AOC squads. There's a black woman there. This is a good thing for Democrat to show that Democrat can be a good representative for minority in the House. Why? Because we even have a black woman there sitting to speak up about the minorities' rights and ideas to reform the social injustice. This will create a better and fair society at the end of the day. And also minorities, of course, they will experience the fairness. Why? Because they have a black representative there. Their ideal representative is already there in the house representing about and speak up about these minorities rights. And we believe that we should support this representation of minority. And that means this AOC squad is deserves to be supported. Lastly, she also these AOC squad are also justified to be an ideal and an ideal representative. Why? I will explain it now. As a Democrat, she can not only she but the AOC squad can vocally sustain Democrat as the majority of House representatives. Why? I will explain you that people mostly need change. Most people prefer Democrats rather than Republicans, right? Because most people are today are more into progressive than the conservatism itself. It's because Republicans like such as close-minded, denying innovation, it's highly conservatism, and also the ignorance to liberalism and multicultural social structure. And also we all know that it is well known to the society that Republicans has a lot of flags such as corrupt and etc. and etc. And we know Democrat should be the one who are vocally opposing them, right? And as Democrat, we should believe that AOC is an ideal idol, also an ideal representative. Why? She's an ideal representative because she can exactly represent people, because even before she elected to the house she faced hardships as a fellow citizen. She faced hardships through her life. She experienced herself how difficulties there should be faced by society in general. Why does she's an ideal representative? Because she keep contributing critics to our advices in legislation with a new point of view that people may need for a better social construction or even political life of the nation itself. We know that we need change. She always This AOC squad always seen as people that bring new ideas, or maybe would be seen as people that very different than the general. This is very good because this is one of the way to imply a check and balances between the parliament and government. So if there's a policy that if there's a policy that creates unfairness towards the environment or even the minority rights, these people who are with progressive mindset could save and protect our rights and could oppose those policy making that maybe harm the entire society. So we as opposition side of the house, we are proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, LO, for your speech. Now to respond the case of opposition, I call on the Deputy Prime Minister. The time is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, give me several seconds, please.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, starting my speech from 3, 2, and 1. Judge, if you're talking to the United States person at the end of the day, what they think about their elections is a college, electoral college at the end of the day. We say that the most important states right now is the nominal selectorate. We say that nominal selectorates are places which is the swing states at the end of the day. Those places are Florida, Texas, and any other kind of places, right? We say that this kind of places rigged with a lot of economical problems such as poverty and etc. That's why they always keep switching allegiance to Republicans who maybe can offer better from a capitalistic point of view, for example. We say when a Democrat keep idealizing the squad, for example, through GND and etc., I do prefer that it is not a strategic way for the Democrats to begin with. Why? It's because the Democrats, by its GND in the very first place, it's very likely that it losing people jobs at the end of the day. Look, GND makes private company to pay its own for the reformations inside of its factory. They force company to use green technology, for example, that cost very huge amount of money, and that could cause even a cost of production increase in the very first place. That's why people think GND as a very radical thing. That's why people prefer carbon tax at the end of the day that being proposed by the Republican team. That's why Paris Agreement is still being supported, since Paris Agreement use carbon tax and not GND. That's why it's answering the questions why GND is actually radicals in the very first place. But secondly, why Democrat to be seen as a more radical one, right? We keep telling to you that romanticizing, it means that we basically creating as a very, ideal, value to be in heaven, etc. We said because of that, Democrat will be seen as more radicals than ever. We said that American citizens do not like radicalized values at the end of the day. This is why Bernie Sanders lose against the Democrat voters in the very first place, because they think that Bernie Sanders cannot win against Trumps, who are inherently going to be much more moderate than Bernie Sanders in the very first place, who provoke, private company to ban all of its Medicare aid, for example, in order for the government to pay it all to the society, which to say that society do not accept those kind of values in the very first place. That's why voters in the side of the House, in the nominal selectorate, will change their allegiance to the Republicans and will never change towards the Democrats at the end of the day after Trump, for example, right? But moving on to the rebuttals, they said that, oh, it's inspire people to change society and etc., but younger people. But Judge, do realize that this can only happen in a place where Democrat is particularly strong. Perhaps it happened in the north part of the country in the very first place, where the younger people are exceptionally have parents that supporting the idea of progressivity. This has never happened in the south region, where perhaps places like Florida, Texas, and perhaps Dakota and etc., they do not have those kind of things in the very first place. Their parents are inherently Republican in the very first place because the economic structures is very capitalistic. That's why they're always supporting Republicans. That's why BLM protests never happening in the north part of the regions. And that's why protests BLM never happen in the southern part of the regions. It proves to you that the people in this current status quo in the south is never going to supporting progressivity idea and much more likely inclusive towards the moderate stance that going to be much more likely going to be happen. Secondly, they say that the Democrats are inconsistent. I do not see why this is something as good as a benefit. Bernie Sanders already being so consistent from 1986, and yet he never win any kind of elections. He always lose because he is radical from the get-go, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we say it's absolutely important for us to change how society perceive into Democrats in order for them to see the Democrats it's much more moderate like Joe Biden, for example. Secondly, they said that represent minority and etc. But we said it doesn't mean you have to use the squad in order for you to represent the minority. Democrats at the end of the day, without the squad, will already going to represent the minority at the end of the day, since it is their voter base in order for them to project winning at the end of the day, right? Hence we say your rights as a minority, even though there is no squad, will always be going to be served by the Democrats, ladies and gentlemen. Lastly, they say that AOC squad entitled making people to prefer Democrats and etc. But we said that this will not happen since firstly, we say that they are easily under attack under pre-assumptions that they are bringing radical values in the very first place. Secondly, we do believe that in the future, perhaps people will not voting for Democrats anymore after Republicans find a new representative after Trump, for example, right? Because the fact right now, people do not want to vote for Trump is because that he is a pretty bad leader in the very first place. Hence, if the Republicans could basically picking another candidate that's much more likely going to be more moderate than Trump, everyone inside the Republican will vote for that new candidate in the very first place. It doesn't necessarily mean that AOC will bring a lot more people to the voting table inside the Democrat. So moving on to my extensions, why Democrat voters who are especially the minority can get under attack and will never be actually succeed in this debate, ladies and gentlemen. Recognize that minority who live in the United States of America do not have a huge amount of capital since they are basically a very underprivileged, do not have a very rich parent in the very first place. And US society that's still doing discrimination and etc., right? Just like BLM and etc. We say that radicalized policy that are being brought by the minority voters because they see being deemed as supporting the Democrats in the very first place, right? We say that it's of course that they are being seen as someone that's very radicalized, that opposing the majority very much in this debate, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we say that the minority will be seen as someone radical, and because of that, they will be always being opposed by the majority of the white voters at the end of the day. But secondly, we think it's also pretty damaging towards the Democrat in the very first place, since we also believe that Democrats have an interest to protect its voter base. We believe when the Democrats just always keep losing under the radicalized policy in the very first place, what will happen is that we cannot create policies in order for us to protect this kind of minorities. Look at inside of Trump policies, for example, Trump reducing subsidies for immigrants and towards the minority in the very first place. Black immigrants and black peoples get reduced in terms of subsidies if you're following the side of the house, because Democrat being seen as more radical than ever, right? So what will happen under the side of the house is that they cannot protect the minority, since Democrat cannot win in the elections, since basically all of the assumptions that being attacked by the Republicans through data about the GND is absolutely true, and because of that, society in nominal selectorate will basically always pick Republicans because they keep saving their jobs at the end of the day. But secondly, they also keep losing the minority because the minority always getting under attack from the majority because they seem as more radical than ever. That's why we oppose.
Thank you, DPM. Now to respond to the case of government, I call on the Deputy Leader of Opposition. The time is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Before I further move on to my extensions, a few responses to team proposition. First of all, panel, why do we lose swing states, or why do Democrats lose seats in the House, or why do these things happen in the first place, right? It's because centrist Democrats, because sometimes Democrats, they try too hard to satisfy people who aren't in line with their beliefs instead of following the progressiveness of what a Democrat is as a whole. As Democrats, we believe that we should cater to our voters first, right? Which I will explain later on in my extensions too. Their main argument is that being this radical, or that the squad's unstable views will harm our image and us as Democrats, and that with swing states we need stability to prevent them from switching allegiance. Right? Note
panel, that in the previous elections, like the November 3rd election, for example, the less progressive Democrats who are more like centrist towards Republicans, there's actually a lot of them who didn't get reelected into the office, right? But all the left-wing progressives are reelected. This shows that Democrat voters' demographic are indeed changing, right? And they want what is being offered by the squad, or at least their values and principles. No, thank you. So in order for the Democrats to reach their main goal, which is to remain the majority in the House at the end of the day, we should quite actually support these women further. Why? Because they benefit us even when the public, or even when sometimes they are perceived as they don't. What I mean by this is that the interest of Democrats voters are changing, aka they're not anymore impressed with the status quo policies or the centrist. If Democrats are too scared of being divided, then blend in as Democrats. Follow what your voters want, right? This is the base premise. Become more progressive instead. Take it with a grain of salt, guys. Rather than staying and being contempt with the SQ, quite literally drag Democrats to be progressive, to move towards the progressive side, because with the election of Joe Biden proves this amount of progressiveness that the squad is representing has worked in our favor. We say, instead of being half progressive or more towards centrist, which makes us no different than Republicans, the very fact that many people idolize, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or the members of the squad, proves that the voters' views and beliefs are yet again changing. Panel, I think it's safe for us to say that this squad is offering that they request a view of change or a political revolution to acknowledge first how the demographic of younger political generation, and secondly, advocating towards progressive policies such as the Greens New Deal, despite that sometimes they may view it to be clashing with their party's leadership. Firstly, we think the government needs to fully understand and acknowledge that now the main demographic of voters are indeed the young generation, right? I think we should agree on that. It is proven by Joe Biden's previous election, being that the most numbers achieved in an election in history, with the charts showing the main turning point being the younger generation. And now that nowadays idolizing is how most people consume things anyway. How even with how even with all of his controversial past, people still like idolize and vote Biden because he was so idolized against Trump, right? Which resulted in him being elected because just of how strong the younger generation's influence here and how strong idolization actually is. There is a surge of new voters who are sick of the status quo. As Democrats, our utmost interest is to keep the majority in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Why? So we have the platform and we have the voice and the numbers to create the law and policies that we want. And people of the United States, especially the younger generation and the older generation, now they want this to happen. The majority wants Democrats to live out their progressive values, and what this squad represents, though sometimes is controversial, at the base does implement that progressiveness. Let me explain why we believe this idealization towards them is okay and why, in fact, it benefits us. First, we have the matter of awareness, which is quite obvious, right? Considering the circumstances. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been considered to be the best representative or idol for millennials these days that hold a seat in the House of Representatives, as she like literally came from like flipping tacos in the streets of New York City to being a representative of the city. This idolization towards AOC results in millennials and younger people that they finally see someone point out change in the most clear way, like straight up calling out politicians for their corrupt, or like calling out Trump in the House of Representatives, outsmarting them right at her bench. She, as well as these other three women, has succeeded in gaining like massive attention towards Democrats, right? And has gained Democrats more younger supporters and has made issues such as the Green New Deal or the Paris Agreement into light in the first place and puts a reminder of why it is so important. So for Democrats, we do not regret the idolization because it favors us in that matter. Secondly, another reason why it is justified to idolize them is because they inspire people. And look, I get what you mean is that as much as they inspire people, it's not, you assume that we won't be as realistic or as effective as you say, right? But let me just take us back to like from a background viewpoint. Even voters who are not yet like eligible to vote, or like the younger generation, they can see that these people are involved in politics from similar backgrounds as a way. It is shown just by how much the squad is growing. Like we see like Cori Bush, a Black single mother, elected into office. This idolization, no matter how we like underestimate inspire underestimate how they inspire people. It in fact does. It inspires them to side with the Democrats, to encourage them to make actual fundamental change in American pro-capitalist government. This makes people like view like, oh, I agree with the Democrats, even though they might not fully know what Democrat is. Let's have a worst case scenario analysis. We believe that the worst case that will happen to Democrats if the idealization goes wrong is that Democrats will be like overly divided, right? But even if Democrats is divided more way in opinions or in values or standpoints, we believe as Democrats ourselves, it is still okay, because what we want to do the most is cater to our voters and voice out for the people who supports us. If we can still do bipartisanship with the Republicans, then we can still definitely manage our party and agree on important things as well, like environmental preservation or minimum wage. The bottom line is, if our voters' ideal idea of a representative is changing, then what we do is follow through, because this party exists to represent the people. It can be a direct impact from the idolization, or it could just be that young people or voters are generally more progressives anyway, right? That's how and why the idolization started and why it exists in the first place. And if we want to discuss about the radicalness of progressives from a wider point of view, the policies that progressives stand for are factually better for society as a whole anyway. It is well known. Universal healthcare, raising minimum wage, and environmental protection. So despite the argument of like preserving states from changing their allegiance or how we could wreck our reputation as Democrats, we believe that so far this squad, if they did do that much harm, then why are Democrats as strong as we are now? Which is why we, as the opposition, we oppose this.
Thank you, the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Now to close the case of government, I call on the government whip. The time is yours.
Like 15 seconds for frame. So ladies and okay, so I will start my speech in three, two, one, go. So ladies and gentlemen, firstly I want to summarize a bit in the case of my team. First argument that we say basically they're too radical. If we support AOC, which they support GND, feminists and etc. We say that it is not strategic for government to support this because it will not appreciate many layer of the society. It will create a space for us to be attacked by the Democrats, by the Republicans, and many more. So and also we say that it could create a more voter base because there is a many layer of society that we cater in our ideology and lawmaking and etc. Uh, Moving into my independent rebuttal, firstly, they say that try too hard fulfill that are not in line. They should provide example because no one actually get voted because they are left-ish. Political revolutions are always fail. They say that political revolution fail. One, since it is done in line with the interest of all people. Second, they never engage while losing swing state is fine. Even if, yes, we sacrifice our interest, at least we provide a quick protection since everyone can accept that, hence minority can be protected quickly. And also they say about inspire people. Side with the Democrat, no, they don't they don't since that their parents already portray Democrat bad from their childhood, hence they don't have an incentive to vote for the Democrat. Democrat, they say that Democrat now strong just because Trump blunder. Sorry, look at 2016, Hillary Clinton healthcare, but and etc. But they still lose to Trump. Trump has many voter base in the country like the southern, like yeah, there are have Trump is right now is still very strong. And moving to my clashes. First class, why is it just like to be to regrettable? Why is it regrettable? They say why GND is so radical. It's not. It is not radical. They say that society is progressive, like the Trump and the Paris Agreement, etc. They ask why GND is radical. We say and we already explain on why the GND is radical. Yeah, because why is that radical? Simply because the GND is very harmful towards the certain people, such as the people who work in a company who still not environmentally friendly, or maybe you can be opposed by the company because yeah, you are strongly the advocating this company to be not to be an environmental friendly. Meanwhile, the company is not ready. Meanwhile, the company is really greedy. Maybe the company is capitalistic and etc. So it is very better in comparison because we are more moderate and we will sway this company bit more patiently and not radically. And which and moving to my next rebuttal, they say why idealization is okay because it raises awareness and etc. That women can jump into the government and the squad actually justified to become idols because they can represent women. Yes, we admit that it could create an empowerment towards the woman, but we say that is very inexclusive at all because in our side as Democrats, we also support and empower the woman in itself. But let's say the opposition team are more empowering. But even if like that, our proposal is more important because as political party wanted to make a more voter base. So the little benefit in the opposition does not matter because the harm will outweigh the little benefit. Moreover, for the environment, it is no need for the squat and etc. Because there is many women in the politics who can also represent women in the politics. So it is not important to idealize the squad. Moving to my second question, which proposal has more benefits towards the Democrats as a party? Uh, they say that the Democrats will still be elected because right now the society loves the one who is progressive. We say the reply is no, that we say and we are actually prove what is it that the society in America is more prefer the moderate ones who are still acknowledge our liberal values, like they support the LGBTQ people or feminists, but still not that supporting in the GND who are that radical because it is harm many people in the status quo. But right now, at the end, we're still trying to support the GND, right? But if you want to say the harm is in us, yeah, it is not because in your side you are more idealizing them and you make they are more sounding and you make the company more worry and the society more worry. So the harm will be not in us, only exclusive in your side. So that's why in conclusions our side it is better because we also empower women. We also have more voter base. We also have we also can sway the company to become more environmental friendly if you talk about GND. uh, and and yeah, it is very beneficial, and our side is more beneficial than the opposition side of the house. Thank you.
Thank you, Government Whip. Now to close this substantial case coming from opposition, I call on the opposition whip. The time is yours.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm still. There's some problem with my device. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. If we are losing swing states, then we believe it is still okay because it means that we haven't spread our idea well enough to them. We believe it is okay because midterms elections came after 2 years and we can still try again to take back the house by fixing our previous mistake. We make better adjustments to campaign there. See which districts we lost in and rely our message once again in a way that more reliable in their area. Maybe like oil fracking in Michigan is actually worsening their water system, and environmental preservations will help you from that to happen further. And also, one on the clashes is that in our worst case scenario, Democrats will lose positions or like be divided. However, let's have a worst case scenario analysis. The worst case that will happen, the Democrats, if the idolizations goes wrong, is that Democrats will be divided, right? But even if Democrats is divided in opinions, we believe as Democrats ourselves, it is still okay because what we wanted to do the most is cater to our voters or voice out for the people who supports us. If we can still do bipartisanship with Republicans, then we can still definitely manage our party and agree on important things as well, like the environmental preservations or minimum wage. The bottom line is, if our voters' ideal idea of a representative is changing, then what we do is follow through because a party exists to represent the people. It can be a direct impact from the idolizations, or it could just be the young people or voters are generally more progressive anyway, right? That's how and why the idolizations started at the start. Secondly, another reason why it is justified to idolize them is because they inspire people, right? From similar backgrounds as them to get involved in politics as a way it is shown by just how much the squad is growing. We see now Cory Bush, a black single mother elected into office. The idolizations inspires people to side with Democrats, to encourage people to make actual fundamental change in American pro-capitalist government. Because no matter how much you underestimate inspiring, it works in election. So, moving on to my rebuttals. So, government mentioned about you first speaker bring up about poverty is one of the problem. So, for your information, Democrat is the one who opposed tax increase policy in the House. And you also mentioned about this will happen if Democrat is particularly strong. This will never happen in South region, Florida, Dakota, and etc. Here's the thing. As Democrats, our first intention is we need to fulfill our voters' interests first. We can always grow step by step. As Democrats, we have to follow to our voters one first. That's what's wrong that we have proven you. Democrats who lose their seats in the House because they try too hard to satisfy people who aren't in line with their beliefs. And you also mentioned about Democrat is very radical. Okay, they be seen as radical because it's not common. It's because they bring new ideas, and these new ideas is very important to imply a check and balances between parliament and government. All ideas should be listened, no matter if it's a new or old idea. It should be heard too. And you also mentioned about AOC is radical because she supports feminists and many more. You can't generalize all feminists like that. You can easily determine a feminist as a radical. And lastly, you mentioned about even without AOC, they will keep support minority at the end of the day. But here with the appearance and idolizations of AOC, which consists of a minority woman, inspires people to make actual fundamental change in the society in general. Idol has a big power of influence. So moving on to my arguments. So okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is well known that people prefer Democrats rather than Republican. And also, we all know Democrats have the modern perspective rather than Republican. So now let's talk about AOC squad, shall we? Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who is she? She's the representative of New York City. What's her background? She used to be just a normal girl that sells tacos. Okay, from the girl that's selling tacos to the New York City representative, just like her squad also like hers. From nobody to somebody, these girls knows and experience it by themselves the injustice that government gives. They've been through so much hard path to be what they are now, and from all that, they really deserve, and they are the perfect role model for all millennials. Why? Those millennials right now needs to have the tolerance. AOC squad is the perfect role model for them, because millennial is the agents of change, right? We don't want to repeat the same mistake that already happened from our old generations, right? What kind of problem? Well, of course, discriminations. As Democrats, modern progressive, as the house that want a good modern progressive, we need AOCs to be the role model. Rather than losing Democrats voters, with AOC squad, we can gain more voters. Why? Because AOC squad shows you that the diversity is a good thing. AOC is well known because they often bring new progressive values, and like we know, just take a look at Black Lives Matter. Since one of our AOC's squad is a black woman, people seeing this as a really good thing, and they are representing the people who vote for them. So it's not only pandering; it's through action. And also, one of the AOC's campaign mode promote to get young new eligible voters to be involved is really a good thing for Democrats because they can get a new voters. Why did I explain this? Because we are asked why it is just justified for us to idolize them, especially from the Democrats' point of view. So uh, that's all from me. We as the opposition side, we oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to sum up all the debate, I call in the opposition reply. The time is yours.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, the proposition side of the House keep mentioning all the time that Democrat is the one who are very radical. Here's the thing, they are be seen as radical because it's not common, right? It's because they bring new ideas, and we've already explained you that there's nothing wrong with new ideas, especially when these new ideas bring new development for our life itself. And these new ideas, it's very important to imply a check and balances between the parliament and government. All ideas should be listened, no matter if it's a new or odd idea, it should be here too, right? And they keep asking about how if we losing swing state, how could losing swing state is fine. They keep worrying that this will never this our proposal will never be happen in the particular area where Democrat is not strong, like in the south region, like Florida, Dakota, and etc. But my deputy leader of opposition and whip already explained you that here's the thing, if we're losing swing states, then we believe it is still okay because it means that we have not spread our idea well enough to them. We believe it is okay because midterms election came after 2 years and we can still try again to take back the house by fixing our previous mistake. We make a better adjustment to campaign here, see which district we lost in, and rely our message once again in a way that more reliable to their area. Maybe like oil fracking in Michigan is actually worsening their water system, and environmental preservation would help you from that to happen further. And also, I would like to explain the clear once again that as Democrats, our first intention is we need to fulfill our voters' interest first, right? We can always grow step by step, right? As Democrat, we have to follow to our voters' want first. That's what's wrong, that we have been proven you that Democrats has lose their seats in the House because they try too hard to satisfy people who aren't in line with their beliefs. as a party, follow your voters want. That's a base premise. And we already gave a characterization about today's demographic voters are currently the young generations, and we prove you that the main demographic of voters are indeed the young generation. It is proven by Joe Biden's previous election being the most numbers in an election, with history with the charts showing the main turning point being the younger generation, just like being explained by my second speaker. And being that nowadays, how we consume things anyway is like idolizing, right? Like how even with all his controversial past, people still vote Biden because he was so idolized against Trump, which resulted in him being elected because of just how strong the younger generation's influence here. The majority wants Democrats to live out their progressive values and what the squad represents to sometimes controversial, at the base does implement that progressiveness. So we say that this is not a serious harm that like cannot be changed by the Democrats, even if we have the worst, even if when we have the worst outcome, right? And when we believe this idolization towards them is okay and fine, even benefits us, we have the matter of awareness, which is quite obvious considering the circumstances, and also this bring a very good impact to us because we all know our voters target right now. Our voters right now, the target are the younger generations, and we have proven you how it works. So we as the opposition side of the house, we are very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Opposition Whip. Now, to close government's entire debate, I'm going to call the government's reply. The time is yours.
Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, give me several seconds, please. Okay, I start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Judge from this debate, we should know that the context is absolutely tensions, right? Both sides claiming that, oh, the context is actually very progressive, and my team say that the context is not that progressive. But I think that we need to try break this right now. Which context is actually much more better? I think because both team cannot basically explain well which context is actually more important. Hence, we see that the context supposedly to be semi-progressive country, because we already give to you an explanation that the north part of the area is progressive, but the southern part is not that progressive. Hence, let's analyze which argument is much more better. I think that the arguments coming from our side of the house is much more important. Why? It's because we're telling to you that basically our ideas will not be that radicalized. Our ideas will much more likely going to be moderate, just like what Joe Biden do. That the Democrat will not doing GND, for example, and etc. Hence, because of this kind of context, we say that it's much more believable towards the society inside of the United States of America, and because of that, it costs Democrat to win in the elections. Secondly, they never engage. The worst case scenario even better. Like even if you lost in swing state and etc., they just keep telling you that, oh yeah, we are able to do this again in the next year and etc. But judge, I need to remind the judge here that basically all of their arguments and benefits can only apply if Democrats are being able to win in an elections. We said that it cannot be happen under the set of the House, since we already telling to you that Democrat will not win in an elections. We already telling to you that the Democrats will eventually cannot propose any policies and etc. Right? And because of that, you as a Democrat cannot actually fulfilling your voters' interest in the very first place if you are not getting elected. That's why our arguments basically answer all of their questions in the very first place, because we are the only thing that can provide any kind of explanations that why Democrats will lost. It's because that AOC is very radicalized using GND and etc. Where Bernie Sanders, the parallel example is same with the Bernie Sanders. He's also very radical, and because of that, he lost the elections. Hence, we said that Democrat will be losing this debate at the end of the day if you're following the side of the House. 3, some oppositions never engage to my extension, saying that the Democrats at the end of the day will never able to fulfill the voters' interest at the end of the day. It's never being rebutted. But secondly, my third speaker already telling to you that even if we are sacrificing the people's interest inside of Democrats, we say it's perfectly fine, because at least we can provide a quick protections to the minority, because policies is easy to being accepted by the both party at the end of the day, right? Because everyone can compromise at the end of the day. That's why we say it's much more better if following our side of the House. So moving on to my clashes. Which one is actually more better? Is it radicalized or is it moderate? We also already provide to you why that being moderate is much more better. Look, that basically Democrat is really losing in elections. Just this year, they just win because Trump is basically blunder, just like what I'm telling to you, right? But my third speaker already telling you, just because Trump is blunder and no one is going to elect Trump again. But we say in the 4 years next to come, we say that another representative might come, and because of that, they might trying to choose Trump at the end of the day. If we are they will might choose another representative coming from Republican because they know that Democrats are still going to be that radical at the end of the day. Secondly, it's also very problematic because Hillary also is very leftist in the end of the day, but she lost in the 2016 elections, right? She lost because she doesn't have the public support coming in United Society because they are basically a moderate person and not radicalized at the end of the day. Hence, this actually answering to the second class, which are much more likely going to be better. We say it's much more better under our side of the house since we can make Democrat to being able to be re-elected again. That's why our interest as a voters will much more likely going to be fulfilled since our policy can be easily passed. That's why we propose.
Okay, that concludes the debate. Now, because the announcement are going to be announced in the main hall, you may all proceed to leave this breakout room, as this room is going to be used for the judges and panels to deliberate the decision. So, for LO and observer and participants, please do leave this breakout room.
Thank you, Kak. Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you.